I'd heard plenty of ghost stories in my life. Haunted houses, vanishing hitchhikers, cursed dolls in glass cases. But never in my wildest thoughts did I believe a bridge could sing. That changed the first night I stood on Willow Span, an old rusting truss bridge deep in Greywater County. It was not traffic rattling the steel. It was not wind slipping through broken beams. At exactly midnight, the bridge opened its throat and sang like a living thing. The sound was low and hollow, full of layers, like a choir hiding inside metal. The river below trembled, the air pressed against my chest. Then, above the rumble, a clear voice rose and called my name. One of those voices knew me. I'm an audio tech. I used to work stages and studios in big cities. I burned out. Life became a string of late nights, half-finished projects, and promises I kept postponing. So I moved to Greywater County for quiet work and quiet air. I fixed church soundboards and tuned small theaters. I told myself that everything had a simple cause if I paid attention. Loose bolts, bad gain, crossed wires. My first week in town, I saw a sign in Marla's diner. The sign said no trespassing after sundown at Willow Span, violators subject to arrest. Someone had drawn a little music note below it in pencil. I laughed. Marla did not. She refilled my coffee and looked me in the eyes. Folks say it sings at midnight, she said. Wind can play tricks, I answered. Steel is a good instrument. A girl went missing from there 10 years ago, she said. Her name was Kayla, bright kid. Everyone loved her. She liked walking alone when the town was quiet. One October night she went out and never returned. People say the bridge sings because it will not let the story end. I ate my eggs and tried to leave the conversation behind. I could not. The audio tech part of my brain woke up and paced around. If something made noise, I wanted to record it and understand it. Maybe I also wanted to prove to myself that the world was still mechanical and reasonable. Maybe I wanted to show that the only mystery was resonance. At sunset, I packed a field kit, 2 shotgun mics, a contact mic with heavy putty, 2 tripods, a small recorder with fresh batteries, a decibel meter, a headlamp, ear muffs, gloves. I wrote a note for myself and left it on my table. Testing at Willow Span, back after midnight. County Road 12 wound through willow and field until the river appeared like a dark stripe. The old bridge rose out of the trees, a skeleton of triangles against a bruised sky. A county lock held a chain-link gate across the deck. A second sign warned me off. Someone had added a little drawn staff with notes. The wind carried a damp smell. There was no traffic noise, only the steady hush of water. I parked on the gravel shoulder. I did not break the lock. I went under the bridge along the bank, climbed the concrete abutment, and slid through a gap in the truss. The county had sealed most holes. They had missed this one. I stood on the deck and felt the structure under my boots. Old asphalt and steel plates, rust like dried blood on the joints. The river slid under me like black glass. I set one mic near the entrance, aimed down the span. I set the second in the middle, under the highest part of the truss. I pressed the contact mic to a crossbeam with putty. I ran cables to the recorder and checked levels. At 10:04, the river hissed gently in my headphones. An owl called upriver. Far away, a truck groaned and faded. The fog rose from the water like breath. Waiting should have been boring. It was not. Steel clicked as the temperature dropped. A fox cried in the trees and then went silent. The fog grew thicker and turned the truss into a grey cage. My thermos kept my hands warm and gave me something to hold. I watched the red seconds on my watch. At 11:52, I wrote in my notebook that the air felt heavy. At 11:59, the air felt heavier. At midnight, the bridge began to sing. The first tone rose from the steel like a bow across a cello. The pitch was low. It had harmonics that shimmered like spider silk. The chain-link gate hummed in sympathy behind me. The river surface jumped with tiny rings. The sound grew until I felt it inside my ribs. The recorder meters climbed into the red. I pulled the gain back. The tone slid a half step up, then a quarter step down, like a hand searching a piano for the right key. Then a voice separated from the tone. It was faint at first, the way a single singer can rise inside a choir and hide again. It threaded itself through the metal and the river. It formed syllables. It shaped a word that hit me like a cold drink thrown in my face. The word was my name. Evan, it sang. Evan. My name has 2 easy beats. I'd never thought about that. I think about it now. I told myself the pattern was coincidence. Our brains hunt for patterns. Static makes false faces. Wind shapes random vowels. I kept telling myself that until the voice said another word with the same calm certainty. Help! Who are you? I said, and my breath smoked in the beam of my headlamp. The tone held steady for 3 long heartbeats. Then the voice said a name that belonged to the town and to that sign in the diner. Kayla. I walked to the rail and tilted my light down between steel triangles. The beam found fog and moving dark. A log turned slowly in an eddy. A pale oval flashed and vanished. I leaned farther. The oval flashed again. This time I saw a face under the surface, eyes open, hair floating like river grass. It moved with the current and mouthed words. It slid under the bridge and was gone. I wanted to say I saw a person trapped. I wanted to throw a rope. There was no rope. The old ladder had been cut away. My phone showed 1 bar, then none. I told myself to stay calm. I am trained to stay calm around sound. Feedback is worse when you panic. I tried to think like a tech. What would make a bridge sing a fixed note at exactly midnight? Changing air density, a pressure front, the angle of wind along the river, but there was no wind. The fog hung still like cloth. A second melody rose above the low tone. It was a lullaby my mother used to hum when storms took the lights out. The tune wound around the truss and through my head. My knees felt loose. My eyes wanted to close. I clapped and shouted to snap myself awake. The sound of my clap became part of the music and dissolved. I understood then that if I stayed in the center of the span, the bridge would sing me into the water. I backed toward the gate. The high melody sharpened like a knife. The contact mic threw a thin whine into my earphones. Muscle memory saved me. I turned the input down and killed the spike. I stepped again and again until the lullaby thinned and the low note lost strength. Near the entrance, I felt the pressure ease. I folded the nearest tripod with fast hands. I wound the cable. I kept my breathing slow and counted each step like beats on a metronome. I peeled the contact mic off the beam. The putty came away stringy and clear. As I slid through the gap at the abutment, the deck shifted a fraction of an inch, like a rib cage that chose not to cough. The truss gave a quiet groan. A voice, not sung now but spoken, touched the air near my ear. Do not go, it said. I get lonely. I left. I drove home without music and without speeding. My hands shook so hard I had to hold the wheel tighter than usual. At my table, I pressed play and listened to the recording. The tone was there, pure and strong. The voice that said help me was as clear as a human voice on a stage. When it said Kayla, I paused the file and looked up the old story. A small article from a decade before appeared on the local paper's website. High school junior missing. Last seen walking near the river. Photo of a girl with bright eyes and a sweatshirt with a paw print. The next morning I took the file to the sheriff's office. Deputy Ruiz listened without interrupting. He did not make jokes. When the voice said Kayla, he rubbed his chin. We get phone videos from that bridge, he said. Wind and chain noise mostly. This is different. Staged audio is possible. Hidden speaker. Could be someone is playing tricks, but this is different. He kept a copy of the file and told me to be careful at night. The warning felt practical, not dramatic. He had pulled bodies from water. He knew how places can work on the mind. I should have left it to them. I did not. Curiosity and duty pulled me back. That night I brought a small lead weight, a bright bobber, and a strong line. I kept my feet on the gravel by the gate. I rigged the line to a post and dropped the weight into the water under the first section of the bridge. I dusted the chain link with chalk to see vibration patterns. I put on earmuffs to blunt the lullaby. The recorder ran on a short cable. I watched the time. At midnight, the low tone rose again. Even through the muffs, I felt it in my chest. The chalk diamonds on the fence turned to white blurs and steadied. The bobber twitched, then dipped, then vanished under the surface. The line went taut like a live thing. I wrapped it twice around my wrist and pulled back. Something below tugged with slow, even pulls, like a person climbing hand over hand. I braced. The weight lifted and knocked against concrete. The river made a soft chuckle. The sound was not a voice. It was bubbles in a human pattern. For a breath, I felt a childish anger rise in me. How dare the river laugh? I pulled again. The line went slack. I fell back onto the gravel. The muffs shifted, and a thin slice of the lullaby slid into my ear. I shoved the muffs back down and reeled the line in. The weight came up with a bent hook. Caught on the barb was a string of dark hair. I stood still for a long moment. Then I wrapped the hair in a napkin from my pocket, sealed it in a plastic bag, and wrote the time. I called Ruiz. He arrived with another deputy and a camera. He bagged the hair and took photos. He did not step on the deck. He asked me for the second recording in the morning. He looked at the river like a tired man looks at a stubborn machine. 2 days later, the county brought a side scan and a diver. Townspeople stood on the bank with their collars up. I stayed behind them and watched the ripples around the boat. Near the middle pier, the diver raised a hand. The team lifted a long shape from the water and eased it into the boat. No one spoke. The sheriff gave a short statement that afternoon. Human remains had been recovered. Female, age consistent with the missing person. Dental records would confirm. Marla poured my coffee the next morning and slid a slice of pie across the counter. We used to say the bridge sang because it was proud of its secret, she said. Maybe it sang because it was full of sorrow and had no other way to speak. Do you think it will sing again? I asked. Some songs change when the audience changes, she said. Some quiet after the story is told. I waited a week before I returned. The fog was thin. The sky was metal blue. I set a recorder on the gravel and kept my hands in my pockets. I did not place a mic on the steel. At midnight, the bridge gave a note. It was softer. It did not press as hard against my ribs. A simple melody rose, not the old lullaby, but something like a tune hummed while sweeping a clean floor. I stood there and let it wash through me. For a few seconds, a second voice rose, calm and light, and I felt the word thank you without hearing it. It might have been memory. It might have been hope. I can live with either answer. Word spread around town that the singing had changed. Teenagers still came to dare each other at dusk, but most left when the sun dropped. The county kept the lock on the gate. People brought flowers to the fence for a while, then stopped when the family asked for privacy. Grey water returned to its rhythm. The river kept moving like a black ribbon. I kept working. Fixing sound is still what I do. I cleaned a church mixer that week and taught a high school how to set gain structure so their musical would not feed back. I slept better. Some nights I woke around midnight and stood in my kitchen doorway with a glass of water. If the window was open, the house carried the faintest tremble of the bridge's note, the way a glass can sing when a truck passes 2 streets over. I would touch the rim and hear a tiny ring and think about how many things in this world are instruments even when they do not try to be. People ask me if Willow Span truly sings. I tell them yes. I tell them it sings in a voice you feel more than you hear. I tell them to bring respect and warm clothes and to stand on the gravel, not the deck. If they ask for an explanation, I give them the one I can live with. Steel and wind and river make a chamber. Temperature and pressure create a tuning. Memory adds a missing note. A town listens together and the bridge responds. That is enough for me. Still, there are details I do not share unless someone asks with the right voice. I do not say how the lullaby made my knees soft. I do not say how the deck lifted like a rib cage that wanted to breathe. I do not say how my name sounded when metal spoke it. Those parts live inside the recording I keep on an encrypted drive and inside my bones, which hold vibrations longer than any file can. Late in the fall, after the leaves went to skeletons, I drove out again. I brought no gear, only a thermos and a flashlight. Frost edged the gravel. The river moved slow. I leaned against the fence and watched the sky turn darker than water. Midnight came. The low note rose. It felt like a breath taken in a warm room. A second melody rose. It did not try to pull me anywhere. It felt like the sound a person makes when they stand up from a long kneel and stretch their back and smile at no one. I said out loud, "Thank you." I did not expect an answer. I did not need one. The bridge kept singing for a minute more, then let the note go. The night accepted the quiet. An owl called once from far downriver. I drank from my thermos and drove home on a road that curved like a staff line without notes. Not long after, Marla put up a different sign in the diner. No trespassing at Willow Span after sundown. Respect the river. Someone tried to draw a music note beneath it again. The pencil lines were clumsy. Marla wiped them off with her thumb. She smiled and left a small dot where the note head would have been. It felt right, a hint of a song, not a dare. I still do not claim that steel has a soul. I say only this: some places amplify what we carry into them. Some places hold on to what we leave behind. Some places learn our names because we whisper them there night after night to see if the dark will answer. Most nights it does not. Once in a while it does, and it asks for help. If you ever stand on the gravel by Willow Span at midnight, listen with your whole body. Feel the note in the fence and in your teeth. Keep your feet where the earth holds you. Understand that not every mystery wants to be solved like a math problem. Some mysteries want to be heard, and then they want to rest. I came to Greywater County to find quiet. I found a bridge that sings and a story that needed a listener. Now, when people use the word unsolved, I do not argue. I just nod and think about the river. The current does not solve the stones it passes. It shapes them a little and keeps moving. The song is still there on cold nights, softer now, different key. I hope it stays that way.